What is going on, everybody? Welcome in. So excited for this video here today. I got some time earlier this week to start watching and evaluating the quarterbacks for the 2023 NFL Draft, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on where I'm at with these guys. And we're even going to be ranking where I have these guys right now. Keep that in mind, very much subject to change. I still have a lot of film to get through on a lot of these guys, and these guys still have a lot of games to be played. We're about 2/3 through the season right now, especially for the guys that will have college football playoff games on their resumes when we get to the draft. So these rankings are subject to change, but I wanted to share my thoughts on where I'm at with these guys right now. Before we get started, if you could do me a huge favor, please do just take a second to hit that like button down below. It actually really helps me out. It's a free and easy way to support my channel, help this video get more views. I really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy this video, I think you will love my draft content. This marks the beginning of draft content for the 2023 draft here on this channel. So make sure you're subscribed. You're not going to want to miss the loads of draft content that we're going to have coming just around the corner here. But let's go ahead and get into it. Today, I'm going to be talking about 7 quarterbacks. Not to say there aren't other names that can't sneak into this top 7 group, but right now, these are the big names everyone's talking about that look like the guys that have a chance of being day 1 or day 2 picks. So let's get started with my number 7 quarterback right now, and that is going to be Tyler Van Dyke out of Miami. And honestly, I feel like we can gloss over Van Dyke a little bit at this point in time, because he is only a sophomore at Miami. I think most people view him as the 6th or 7th best quarterback at best in this draft. So there's a pretty decent chance he comes back to school, right? So for that reason, I only watched 2 games on him for now. I didn't want to spend a ton of time on his tape if he's going to come back and give us a junior season to watch. But in what I did see, I didn't really see a super high upside quarterback. I saw a guy that did have a lack of standout traits. Decent arm, decent accuracy, decent processing, decent mobility, but nothing was like, oh yeah, I can see him being a really good starter at the next level. So, you know, it's just going to be a little bit wait and see. If he does declare, I will have to watch more and formulate a stronger opinion on kind of who he can be at the next level. Right now, I see him as almost like career backup type, just because you got to have something that you do really well at the next level. And right now, I don't know what that is for Tyler Van Dyke. But that takes me to my number 6 quarterback, Tanner McKee out of Stanford. McKee is a fascinating prospect to me. He's every bit of 6'6". He is a towering, lanky quarterback. He's a 23-year-old junior out of Stanford. He's a cancer survivor. When he was in high school, he took a journey trip out of high school, or a mission trip. I don't know the details of it, but that's why he's a 23-year-old junior. So an intellectual coming out of Stanford. He's a fascinating dude to draft for your organization. As far as his tape goes, I kind of like his tape. I'm not going to lie. He is, though, very much a traditional pocket passing quarterback. He's not an athlete back there. He's got serviceable athleticism to kind of, you know, scamper for short gains, for first downs. They can do play action boots with him, kind of Matt Ryan-esque in his athleticism. Like, he's not a complete tower, like immovable tower back there, but he's pretty dang close. Like, if he's going to succeed as a good starter at the next level, he's going to have to process defenses and manage the pocket at a really high level. And the thing is, as we've seen over the last few years, the conversation on these pocket passing quarterbacks has kind of changed. Look at like a Josh Rosen, for example. You know, the level of quarterbacking around the league has been elevated, really, as opposed to maybe 15 years ago, where the league would have loved a guy like Tanner McKee. Well, nowadays, we look at all these super athletes coming into the league, and it's like, well, as their process develops, they have these athletic abilities to extend plays, get themselves out of trouble. If they're late on a play, it's not the end of the world because they can save the day with their legs. And then you get a Josh Rosen who comes into the league, who his processor was pretty good for a college level. But the thing is, when you get to the NFL, that doesn't matter. You got to keep getting better and better and better. And if you're going to be a pocket passing quarterback, you've got to basically get to about a top 10 level of processing of defenses and decision making if you're going to be a good starting quarterback. And that's just a really tough ask for any college kid. So when you draft Tanner McKee, that's the understanding. So the conversation on these pocket passers has really shifted towards being, it's a little bit more risky to take these guys than it was maybe years and years ago. So that's the case with McKee. But he really does he has a strong arm. He reads defenses well, and his ball placement down the field is excellent. He takes great care of the football. There's a lot of stuff to like about the way he sees the game. But of course, you have those limitations with his mobility and play extension that we talked about. But on top of kind of his limitations with his mobility and his ability to extend plays and elude sacks, I would say he leans a little bit on the side of being too conservative. If you're going to be a pocket passer, as we see with a guy like Tom Brady, you've got to be willing to very quickly recognize, like, if everything is bottled up and there's nowhere to really go to an open receiver, you do have to take those kind of low risk, well-placed, tight coverage throws that someone like Tom Brady is so good at. And you also have to know where to be able to throw the ball away from the pocket, because you can't just throw it out of bounds. Sometimes you got to know to throw to the guy's feet. And for McKee, he's good at getting through his progressions and not forcing things. But what he's not doing is making some of those really hard decisions of like, okay, he's got a half a step on that defender. I need to lead him and give my guy a chance, as opposed to what McKee does, where he's going to kind of stand there, bottle up, and then he takes a sack. McKee takes, I want to say he has taken the most sacks out of any Power 5 quarterback. So there are some issues there with him that he's going to have to grow. To me, he's not a first-round guy based on what I saw, but can I see him becoming a starting caliber quarterback? Absolutely. Like a Kirk Cousins level pocket passing kind of guy. Yeah, I think he could become that kind of player, but I don't know if there's a ton of upside there either. So I didn't hate McKee as much as maybe I anticipated that I would. I can definitely see him being a second round, third round guy. And I'm excited to watch a little bit more from him too, as we get closer. He does still have a year of eligibility, so he could technically come back and get another year of reps to show that his processing is really good. But then we get to my number 5 quarterback, and this is where the debates will start to come. And for me, it is Hendon Hooker out of Tennessee. And there's going to be some really fun debates, I think, not just between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young that we've been debating for years now, but Hendon Hooker and Will Levis is going to be a fun debate. We still have Levis to come here. A border rivalry there, Tennessee, Kentucky, and two quarterbacks that are two entirely different flavors. Whereas Hendon Hooker to me is more of a high floor, lower upside prospect. Will Levis is more like all over the place. But Hooker reminds me a lot of two quarterbacks from last year's draft, at least like from a high floor, low ceiling perspective. And that is Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder from last year, who very similarly to where I have Hendon Hooker as kind of a late 1, early 2 type of prospect. So for me, there's a lot to like with Hendon Hooker, and I can see why people will like him beyond just the fact that he's having a great season and he's been super productive in the SEC. He's got Tennessee in that college football playoff mix that a lot of fans like to see. But on tape, his processing is really good. It's pro ready. He can get through his progressions, read a defense. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes in structure. He makes almost none. He's got solid athletic ability to kind of extend plays, of course, but you can use him in the designed run game. He can pick up first downs with his legs. So there's a lot to like there. His time to throw is really low. He's not doing a whole lot of staring guys down. He's getting through quickly, getting that ball out, not taking a ton of sacks. But with Hooker, and why I say there's a lack of upside there, number one, there's just not a lot of high-end traits with him. I think his arm is good, it's not great. I think his athleticism is good, it's not great. His processing is good, it's not great, right? That's kind of across the board with him. And he is a 25-year-old rookie, so he is very much developed. I don't know how much more you're going to get from Hendon Hooker. And then on top of that, there's a couple traits with him that I don't like, similar to Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder, where they did have high floors, but they had defined weaknesses in their game as well. So for me, that's two things with Hendon Hooker. Number one, he's a very statuesque passer from the pocket. As he's going through his progressions, he's very flat-footed. He's not really feeling pressure and navigating the pocket. And I love to see that natural poise in the pocket from a quarterback, because when you get to the next level, these pockets are constantly condensing. And if you're not moving, you're going to be susceptible not just to sacks, but strip sacks, getting hit while you're thrown because you aren't feeling that pressure. I am worried about that with Hendon Hooker. Now, if the pressure gets in and he sees it, you will see him move. But that's only if he sees it. I don't think he has that natural sense. And the other thing with that is he very much has a clock in the back of his head where he's going to get through a couple progressions, and if they're not there, he's going to take off and run, which more often than not is fine. But the high-end quarterbacks can sense when the pocket is clean, and that's not necessary. And they can reset, get to a third and fourth read, and hang out and let things happen inside the pocket. He's not really doing that. He runs himself into pressure when it's not there sometimes. So there's still some stuff not to like. And he also has some random accuracy issues, similar to what I said about Desmond Ridder, where, accuracy is not being able to necessarily make beautiful throws. Accuracy is consistently being where the ball needs to go. And he does leave balls behind crossing routes. He does overthrow guys deep. So it's not always where you want it to be from an accuracy perspective. So I really like Hendon Hooker. I think you can spend a late first round pick or an early second round pick on him if you are a team ready to compete right now that needs a quarterback and you want to maximize on that cheap rookie contract. For me, he does have a ceiling of maybe a guy like Dak Prescott in a best case scenario, but there's a downside there as well, that you're not guaranteed that you're getting Dak Prescott. So I like Hendon Hooker, and I'm curious to see kind of where the debate goes with him. But then my number 4 quarterback, super polarizing player, Anthony Richardson out of Florida. And he's another guy that could go back to school for some of the reasons we're going to talk about here. But the best way to describe Anthony Richardson is for anybody that's played a Madden, My Career, or a Create a Player, Anthony Richardson is the player that you made. Super athletic, wicked strong arm, lightning quick release, as much accuracy as you could get after you spent on those traits, and then that awareness level, for lack of a better term, from a Madden perspective, pretty much as low as it goes. And, awareness isn't the best way to describe it. With Richardson, it's that processing, decision-making ability to read defenses. It's not there with him right now. He is a very green prospect. This is his first year as a starter in his junior season, and that's not really his fault. Dan Mullins committed coaching malpractice last year. He ends up leaving the program. We saw it not using Dameon Pierce with what we know about him now, and also same thing with Anthony Richardson. His development should have been started last year, and that's not really Anthony Richardson's fault, in my opinion, especially because he played a little bit and looked like the better guy. But here in his first starting season, they're even now not really asking him to do much. The offense that they're running is still very rudimentary. They're not really asking him to read safeties. It's very much like read half of the field. If it's not there, run. And even when he's reading guys, he's just reading one or two receivers. So there's really no way around it. He's going to have to learn how to play the quarterback position. And I think everybody that watches him understands that. That's what makes him such a really boom or bust prospect. It's going to come down to coaching, finding plays in a scheme that works well with him, and it's going to come down to him putting in the time, right? So that is what it is. When you draft Anthony Richardson, I think that's pretty much universal agreement that that is an issue with him. But the traits, like I said, incredible, to the point where a guy like RG3, who had great traits, is watching him play and he's like, wow. Like, when he is on time and that ball gets out, like the release, the velocity, and like I said, he's relatively accurate. He makes some really beautiful throws. So there's a lot to work with him. Honestly, the processing, learning how to play the quarterback position, that is what it is. That's coachable stuff. What does bother me with him, or at least concerns me with him, is the pocket presence. For me, he is the absolute definition of first read and run. And a lot of that, I think, is the coaching and the scheme and what they're asking him to do, where it's like, if it's not there, just take off and use their legs. But you do see him with perfectly clean pockets bailing for no good reason. You don't see a ton of pocket manipulation from him navigating and feeling pressure. So it's just hard to know where that's going to be at the next level. It could be good, and it could just be what they're asking of him in that system. But it could just be he has no pocket feel at all. So super polarizing prospect, Anthony Richardson. And he's very similar to a quarterback prospect from last year too, in Malik Willis. But I will say Richardson has, I think, even better tools. I think his velocity is better. I think his release is better. He's bigger, and he is maybe just as fast as Malik Willis was. So very polarizing prospect. Excited to get into even more of him and see how these last few games go for him as far as his development. But definitely going to be a fun quarterback at the next level to see if he can work out. Because if he does, you're going to get that Josh Allen explosiveness. Pretty big if, though. All right, that takes me to my number 3 quarterback, and that's going to be Will Levis out of Kentucky. And he's a very polarizing player as well, because I really, going in to watch him, I hadn't seen a lot of Will Levis. I saw a little bit of him last year watching Wandale at Kentucky, but even then I wasn't focused on what Levis was doing. So, I came in knowing there's some people that have him as QB1 in this class, number 1 pick. And then there's some people that think he's a 3rd-round pick, total bust, the next Trubisky. And what I'll say about Levis is, if you watch his tape this year and your conclusion is he's not good at football, I can't really blame you, because the production's not there. He is making mistakes, and I get it. Like, you want to see a guy that is producing and playing good quarterback right now. But what I can assure you is, after spending plenty of time with these quarterbacks this week, among all these guys, all 7 of them, there is at least 1 tier gap, if not 7, between the level of difficulty that Will Levis is working on and pretty much anybody else. His O-line sucks, and he just does not have receivers getting open. And we know the importance of surrounding core. This NFL season has very much revealed that to be even more true than ever. So what you got to do when you watch Will Levis is try to separate what he's doing from the production and what was possible on any given play. And I'm not trying to excuse him entirely. There are missed reads. There are mistakes. He's a college quarterback. That stuff does happen. But on those many plays that are sacks or incomplete passes into contested coverage, all you can really do is say, okay, how was his technique? Did he read the safety? Did he recognize the coverage? Did he have other places to go with the football? And I would just say, in the majority of his plays, he is doing the right thing from his perspective. Now, there are a good chunk of his plays where he's making pretty costly mistakes. And I think some of those are situations where he's pressing. Some of them are like, there were opportunities for him to make a play and he didn't. The thing with Will Levis is, because his surrounding situation is a lot worse, those get amplified. You feel those mistakes more because it's not like on the next play he can throw a slant to a wide open guy and he's going 40 yards like with a lot of these guys. So I did walk away liking Will Levis. I think his technique is really good. His foot, his dropbacks are clean. He reads the safeties. His process is good. He does read out the play. I think his accuracy is a little bit off, but it's not terrible. He has this remarkable Rodgers, Zach Wilson-esque flip of the wrist release that you're going to love. He's athletic. He moves well in the pocket. His arm is really explosive. So there is a lot to like about Will Levis as well, but there's a lot to be concerned about on top of that. So definitely another player. I'm excited to see how his season finishes and watch even more about him. I could see myself really liking him. I could see myself lowering him below maybe a guy like Hendon Hooker, who just has a much higher floor. But right now I can see anywhere from like Mitch Trubisky to something like a faster Matthew Stafford or Justin Herbert maybe. Like, there's a lot to like there with Will Levis when you really try to separate what he's doing. So he, for me, is QB3 at this point in time. Now, before we get into the great debate of CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young, I want to tell you about my friends at Underdog Fantasy. So you know those screenshots going around right now on social media of all of those pick'em contests where it's 3, 4, 5 players with over-unders for yards and touchdowns with, you know, low buy-ins and super high payouts? Well, that's Underdog Fantasy. Underdog gives you the chance to get a vetted interest in any game you want for a low buy-in and a chance to get up to 20 times your money through these contests. They're super easy. They're super fun because it's a fantasy website. If you live in a state like me in Minnesota who hasn't legalized sports gambling, you can play. If you're also like me and some of your fantasy teams are dead, but you still want to cheer for some of those players, you can get them going in these contests. So Underdog is really an awesome format. It's a great game to play. I love it. I know you guys are going to love it. And now, by using promo code TFG, you can get up to a $100 match on your first deposit on Underdog Fantasy. So low buy-ins, huge payouts, a ton of fun. That's promo code TFG on Underdog Fantasy. But now, let's get into 1 and 2 in this class. And I don't think this is going to be a big surprise. I've been very loud on social media even before the season started that I just don't get why there's a debate between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. So Bryce Young is going to be number 1. CJ Stroud is going to be number 2. But as we get to CJ Stroud here, I will be honest, I like him a lot more than I thought I would. I was expecting yet another Ohio State quarterback zeroing in on first reads and being a complete product of the system. And there's definitely a lot of the system helping him here. Let's just get that out of the way. Marvin Harrison is ridiculous. That the other guy, I think, is another receiver in this class, super fast in the slot. Last year, he had Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. They have Jackson Smith and Jimba. He's basically never under pressure because their protection's always good. So, like, yeah, the degree of difficulty for CJ Stroud is very low. And that is something you have to factor in when you evaluate a guy like this. But what stood out to me about CJ Stroud is, number 1, his accuracy and touch is really special. There's a couple misses in there for sure, but you are not really worried about that arm coming into the next level of him missing throws. But like I said, he's not a typical Ohio State quarterback. He does get through his progressions, and they have, I think, built a different offense for Stroud than we've seen for maybe a guy like Fields, who, for all of Fields' strengths, was not as good as Stroud is at recognizing safeties, getting through progressions, getting that head around, and finding his second read. I like that about CJ Stroud. Is he perfect? No, absolutely not. He makes a lot of mistakes getting to that second read. And a lot of that is, he doesn't have a lot of reps where he has to do that, right? Almost everything is perfect for him. So you will see him get to that second read or step up in the pocket and drop dimes down the field. But you'll also see him get some of those go through some learning curves where, okay, read 1's not there. He has an idea of where he wants to go. He gets his head around, throws the ball, and it's like, oh shit, that edge guy dropped into coverage, or oh shit, that safety rotated down. I just threw a pick. Like, there's going to be some learning curves there, and maybe that is a problem for him at the next level. The other kind of negative on Stroud, and this does play into the fact that things are usually so open for him, is he really doesn't like to test tight man coverage. It's similar to what we said about Tanner McKee as well. Teams didn't really try to run man coverage against Ohio State very often, reasonably so. Like, their receivers are so good, you usually don't have the corners to match up. But some teams, like Iowa, would go man coverage. And when he gets to the next level, that's what he's going to see, is a lot more man coverage and a lot more tight man coverage. And Stroud just didn't really want to test those crossers where a receiver might have a half a step. You know, he really wants to see a receiver open before he throws the football. And that applies to throwing into kind of zone windows as well. Pretty inconsistent there as well. You'll see times where very clearly a slant or a crosser is developing to the point where he's going to be open in that zone, and he's holding onto the ball and electing to extend the play. Other times he does throw with that incredible anticipation. So just a little bit more inconsistent on that front. Now, the other thing with Stroud is I don't love his pocket presence. There were a lot of times where he does bail from clean pockets, and when he does, he's doing this like deep rollout thing. And when he's on the move, he is capable of, he has really nice play extension stuff, but there's also a lot of times where he's making questionable throws. I think that's where his accuracy is at its worst. I don't think he has an A+ arm, so to speak. So sometimes his arm can let him down trying to throw across his body or hit those really high difficulty throws off his back foot. There's a lot of good with CJ Stroud, other than like the beautiful balls thrown down the field to receivers that have 5 yards of separation. I don't know if there's a ton of great with him. So I do see CJ Stroud as definitely a first round player. Someone I would be comfortable taking in the top 10 if I really needed a quarterback. Is he the best first round prospect ever? No, I don't think so. But I think he's got a pretty nice floor, to be completely honest. A higher floor than I thought I would say about him. I see a little Ryan Tannehill in there. There's occasions where you see like maybe a little Stafford, Justin Herbert. Like, I think he can be somewhere in that range. The biggest question for me is going to be the decision making, the processing. Can it get from where it's at, where it's like it is college good, NFL adequate? Can it get to being NFL good? You know what I'm saying? So young kid, get to the next level, show a little bit more development, can be a very good quarterback at the next level. So I ended up liking Stroud, I would say, more than I thought. And I thought as his years gone on, he got better too. So it's good to see that progression in there with Stroud. But that takes me to Bryce Young, who's my number one quarterback. And inversely with Stroud, I actually walked away a little bit less impressed from Bryce Young than I thought I would be. Still incredibly impressed, don't get me wrong, but my expectations were he was going to be up there with the grades I had on like Joe Burrow, what I probably would have had on like, I don't know if I would ever say as high as what I might have had on Andrew Luck if I was doing this, but I really thought Bryce Young was going to be really one of the highest graded quarterbacks I've ever done. I don't see it being that way right now. I would say he's somewhere in between how I felt about like Trevor Lawrence and Kyler Murray. He's kind of in that range, so like very high, but not like best I've ever given type of stuff, which I really felt like Bryce Young was going to do that for me. And there's still room to change in these last four weeks or whatever. But there is a laundry list of stuff to love with Bryce Young. And number one for him, the thing that just stands out so easily, even casual fans notice this, he is so calm. It feels like the game is moving in slow motion, and he's just able to see things that the wide majority of quarterbacks just don't see. You're talking about like a list of maybe 3 or 4 quarterbacks, guys like Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. I think Joe Burrow's got a little bit of this in him, where stuff just happens around him, and it's like, how did he even think to do that? And it's stuff like, moving defenders with his eyes with subtle shoulder fakes. It's the pocket presence, the ability to navigate pressure. It's these subtle movements he makes that buys him 2 or 3 seconds, whether it's inside the pocket, outside the pocket. He has a natural understanding of the quarterback position and just the game of football that transcends what you see from pretty much any quarterback prospect. So that is a elite, rare trait that you just are not going to find in any quarterback in this class, especially. And then there's so many other things to really like about Bryce Young. I think his arm is good, not great. I think his accuracy is really good. There's a couple missed throws in there, but for the most part, very reliable, especially over the middle of the field where he can just throw some seeds into tight windows in that part of the field against zone coverages especially. But, man, there's a lot of beautiful throws from Bryce Young on tape. He's really efficient in the red zone. It's like what I have in my scouting notes is Aaron Rodgers-esque level of red zone efficiency, where if it's there, he's going to execute almost every time, but so good at understanding that, throwing short of the sticks isn't going to do you anything in the red zone. So he's going to buy time. He's going to make sure that if he's throwing the ball, it's got a good chance of converting for a touchdown. And that oftentimes means play extension and finding those difficult windows. I love his technique in general as well. His footwork, he's constantly moving. As he drops, he's reading the safety. And then by the time he hits the top of his drop, he's at his first read. Very pro-level stuff. So there's just, like I said, a laundry list of stuff to like about Bryce Young. The biggest knocks on him are going to be size and durability. He does take some hits. Certainly, there are a lot of times, especially when he's trying to extend plays, where he's just doing a little bit too much. He does take some hits. So at his size, it is something you're going to be worried about. But also, just more like smaller knocks on a guy like this. Stuff that you wouldn't even really note for maybe a second or a third round prospect, but stuff that if he's going to return value as an elite quarterback, he's going to have to get better at reading disguised coverages. Teams didn't try it against him very often, but you will see if a team's running an inverted cover 2 or, a too high look pre-snap and they rotate into cover 3, that stuff can confuse him, and you're going to see some of his worst reads on those types of coverages. And then he's also pretty inconsistent against the blitz. There's a lot of really good against the blitz where he can get the ball out right away, or he's going to drift and he can throw it deep against the blitz. But there's also times where he doesn't recognize it, the ball should be out, or he's holding onto the ball too long. So going to have to get better against the blitz, which you can say about pretty much any rookie quarterback ever. But yeah, Bryce Young is awesome. I still don't see it as a debate between Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, but they're both excellent prospects in their own right. And to me, Bryce Young should be the number 1 pick in this draft, and I don't really see that changing, and I think that will probably happen when we get there in April. So that's going to do it for my quarterback rankings, my preliminary quarterback rankings. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Again, we've got plenty of draft content coming, especially as we get into January, February, and beyond. So if you enjoyed, do make sure you subscribe. Make sure you drop a like while you're down there. It really helps me out. You can drop a comment as well. And I will just leave by saying, if you really enjoy my draft content, you can check out my Patreon. Not a lot up there right now, but as we get into the draft, you're going to get access to my draft board, college film breakdowns, and exclusive mock drafts for every individual team. So that's the TFG Patreon package on patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy. My voice is just starting to give, so let's get out of here. Thank you for watching. We'll see you later.